Test, test. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I can have your attention. We're blessed today to have a brother and a couple sisters in the Lord sharing today. Clark and Chris are the executive directors of Orphan or Ukraine Orphan Outreach here locally, actually just north of us. And Oksana is their director in Ukraine. And we just want to welcome him here today to share a little bit about a unique ministry that they have in Ukraine to older orphans and beyond, actually. So they're going to spend a little bit of time with us, sharing their ministry and their vision for where they're headed and what God's doing with them. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Terry. So we're just each going to speak just for a few minutes, and then we have a short video that we'll show as well. So I'll start just by talking briefly about how we formed, just so you have a little bit of history and understand our organization and how we've really just responded to what's been in front of us. So my wife, Chris, and I, we adopted back in 2003 from Ukraine, Natalie, our little daughter, who's now 23 years old, but and doing great. But at any rate, we fell in love with the country of Ukraine. God just led us there. It was always a burden on our hearts thinking about those we left behind, those older orphans. And so out of our passion, we continued to adopt. We adopted 4 kids, and we just talked about it fervently with everyone. And that just grew into an organization. So we formed a nonprofit 15 years ago, Ukraine Orphan Outreach. And we're just north of here between Meade and Berthoud is where we live. And so out of that passion, we formed some summer camps. So we did summer camps here in the U.S. as well as some hosting some performance tour groups of orphans. And so that's really how we were spreading the word, and a bunch of adoptions happened in this community because of that. And that was just a wonderful, sweet time. And we slowly transitioned into how can we be more purposeful in Ukraine with those that have been left behind, specifically the ones that are kind of forgotten about, and that's the older kids, the older orphans. And so we started a boys' home and a girls' home. They're both in Russian-occupied territory right now. And so we're ministering to the young adults. They're orphans, but they're young adults. And over the course of time, so I'm just going to talk up to February 24th of this year, we have experienced ministry and been able to partner with other organizations in Ukraine in various ways. We sponsored an IDP, internally displaced persons home, out of the first conflict in 2014 in Western Ukraine. We've helped a men's rehabilitation center. We have a ministry for young moms. And so these 2 transition homes, boys and girls, was the meat and potatoes of our ministry work coming up to February 24th. And so I'll turn it over to Chris to talk a little bit about how our ministry's changed since the war.
So something I wanted to tell you guys is a quote that was very moving, and I just like to tell everybody about it. This comes from a soldier that's fighting in the eastern part of the country, a young man, 19-year-old soldier. And he says, "We are fighting for the freedom of the entire world, the entire civilized world. And if anyone thinks it's a Ukrainian-Russian war, it isn't. It's the war of the light and the darkness between Russia and the entire world." And I truly believe that this is not just a Ukrainian-Russian war. This is for all of us to step in and do something. So February 24th, that, like Clark said, that we are in the after, the before and the after. And our ministry just got jumbled up. It was really like a ER, like triage. First of all, donations started coming in. Like if you look at our donations, they totally spiked. And we just felt very called to help all those triage evacuations. That was one of our main evacuations. Medicine, medical. We have done a lot of medical with hospitals, first aid kits, tourniquets. I mean, whoever thought Ukraine Orphan Outreach would be buying tourniquets, but was a need, and it still is a need. We were able, with the donations, to buy several vehicles, a truck and a van, to help evacuate people from the east. Again, God has just been so good with helping us financially to get the funds to the appropriate partners and people in Ukraine. We've done a lot with shelters for IDPs, for the displaced, and like I said, medical supplies. One of the biggest needs, too, is helping single moms. A lot of the moms have found themselves either widowed or, their husband is off to war, and so single moms that are pregnant and now they're displaced, and so we've been able to find sponsors for people to help them financially to so they can buy diapers and formula, and just the necessities that we all take for granted. So the war has been very challenging, very spiritually dark. It's been a hard time for us because we're just, why God? We're asking those questions, but we also know God is in control and sovereign over Ukraine. And it's been very encouraging just to see, if you're following the news, how Ukraine, they're tenacious people, they're resourceful, they're fighters, and they love their country. Adopting 4 kids from Ukraine, we have a bit of their characters, like we know what their characteristics are. So we're very encouraged by the counter attacks that they're doing, gaining their land back. So we really ask for prayer from the congregation, just to pray for Ukraine and for continued strength and resources, and for other countries to support them, with the different weapons and so forth. And I know that there's a lot of military intelligence over there from the U.S. that are helping the Army, but I just am so impressed by the Ukrainian military, just outsmarting the Russians. And also, too, we need to pray for the Russians, for Putin, and I don't ever like to really get political, but also this is a spiritual battle. So we really feel strong to, pray for all the Russians that are caught in this, the news that they hear that is false, and the lies that they've been told, and just to pray for truth, and that, God will touch them and the Holy Spirit just come over that country. So now I'm going to introduce Oksana. So we've known Oksana for over 15 years, and she's been to the States several times to help us with getting the word out. I think Oksana's story is compelling because, she lives in Kyiv, and she was there when the bombing started. So we've asked Oksana just to speak of her personal stories. She's amazing. This lady has done so much for one person, driving back and forth from Warsaw to Kyiv to get supplies and to help people and to help cats and dogs. Just everybody. Medicine, and she's so connected in the country that if someone calls and says, I'm in a basement in Kharkiv and they're bombing, please get me out, Oksana figures out how to do it. She's like an angel right here. So I'm just honored to be part of her team. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here. I will try to put 6 months in 2 minutes, or I don't know how much time I have. It's been like another life. Just 6+ months. It's crazy. So I will try to make the story logically, so you will understand where we ended up from beginning of the war. So the war started 24th of February, and I was in Kyiv with my kids. So it was 20 minutes decision that you need to grab your kids, pack whatever you can get, and just leave. Because, I would not leave the Kyiv if not kids, so you always have a priority what you have to do, right? So I gathered my cats, my cat, 3 more people, 1 more cat, back to my car, and I was only the one driver, so we went through the bombed region a couple hours before so we could cut the lines on the roads and all the traffic. And we spent one night in another city of Ukraine already with the air sirens. That's what we live right now, actually, in Kyiv every day and every night. And the next day, I knew that I need to make a decision somehow to move kids out of the country. So because the Polish-Ukrainian border already was full of people and long lines, and we had a problem with gas. So my logic was, if I will stuck somewhere and I don't have opportunity to buy gas, I'm not going to help anyone. So I'm making like that time it was my logic. So I will go to another border, much, far from, the Polish-Ukrainian, but at least as soon as I will cross the border, I will possible to buy gas. So evacuation of my kids took 4 days, and all the people that were in my car. So 4 days of driving, but right the next day, on my way, I started to receive lots of requests to my, messages and phone calls from my friends, people I know, help to evacuate from Kiev, from other regions, and it was and it started to be more and more and more, and I was always on phone driving. And somehow, I don't know, I think it's like miracles happens in a way you don't expect. So on the border, we spent 22 hours. And on that border, we met a guy, a businessman from Ukraine that I used to work in the team. So, and he saw all this, my calls, and I'm always with the Red Cross, because I started, after individual evacuation, I started to receive requests to help to get out kids from the hospital, bigger group, and kids with cancer or special needs, and you cannot do just by yourself, so you need to somehow get other people to help. So he came to me on one of the border and said, you're not gonna possible to do all that by yourself. If you can manage a group of volunteers, I will give you 10 people of my staff. You just need to arrange and teach them what to do. So for the next 3 days, I was driving one hand and doing the voiceover, have to arrange the database of drivers, and then all the volunteer organizations that request in another part, and then we split it into cities, into regions, and all the information we could actually gather. So as soon as I got to the Warsaw, my kids were saved with my friends, and I started to gather other volunteers in Poland, how we can help Ukraine. So we arranged a warehouse there to collect everything that we could arrange from America, because all my friends in already Ukraine Orphan Outreach were the first whom I connected. We need help. I mean, anything possible, we need help. So, and then I started my trips to Ukraine, and actually Ukrainian Orphan Outreach was the my help with all the, gas and everything we could, because the needs were so different. You cannot say that we had only those needs. I mean, it's moms with the kids, it's evacuation, and it became military requests from our Christian friends who were called to army or somehow were there, and actually Nick knows the situation there. So I started my first trip to Ukraine from Poland, and it just somehow it worked well, and my ability to talk on the border really helped me to get lots of stuff through the border. So we realized that this is what I can do. So I was bringing stuff into Ukraine and people out of Ukraine. So it's been elderly and pregnant and kids and orphans and animals sometimes, was surprising for me. And my bad, I did not do the notes, so I don't know how many trips I did, but still maybe one day we'll count. So, and on one of my trips, I got a phone call from another my friend, and he said that we need help with evacuation of orphanage with its little kids with special needs. So we were working on that, and we actually helped more than 2,000 orphans to be evacuated. But because we realized that we have a need of them, a place somewhere to stay on the way to the final destination, because some kids cannot be in transportation long time. So we were advised there is an old hospital from Soviet times that was not used for many years. So of course there are lots of work was need to be done before we could receive or have any kids there. So at my call again was, we need help. I mean, we will find volunteers or people who are ready to work by our hands, but we need money to, fix the restrooms or buy beds or bedding for kids. So that's how we all together fix the first floor for kids. But the people started to come from the bomb cities like Mariupol, Kherson, Donetsk, and mostly it's women with kids. They don't have where to go. So we could not let them go, and that's how we ended up with 185 people in that building. And we were already running a huge center. We did not plan to.
And this was an abandoned hospital.
Yeah, it's
It didn't have infrastructure up and running, but it's shelter. I mean, it's February 24th. I mean, think it's cold. It's winter in Ukraine, and they're just desperate because everyone's piling up.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could hear me.
Yeah, and we started more people to come, and then me and my friends that we were working on evacuations, we sat and we said we need to do something. I mean, it's a one stage when war is here and people already like accepted that reality, but we need to help them somehow. I don't know if you have in America this, but we have that phrase like one thing that you give a fish, but another thing if you will teach how fishing. So we wanted to teach them fishing somehow to survive in this life. So like a couple of days later, my friend called and said that he met a guy who has a land and ready to sell, and it's a good, reasonable price for, the land price. But of course, because of the war, and just two of us, we did not plan to do what we do. So, but we really saw a reason of sustainable in this.
Tell us your friend's name, because he's our friend too.
Yeah, Zhenya. So it's his name, Yevgeny, Zhenya, or Eugene. It's just all.
Yeah, so Zhenya or Eugene, and he'll be on. We have a short video to show you, so you'll see him on that.
Yes. So we talked to that guy, and we agreed that we're ready to get that land, but we discussed that we will pay, by portion, so we don't have all the money. So it's a big land with 5 ponds, the word I just learned 2 days ago. There was 5 ponds and the barn, an old barn, and a foundation that where another barn was before. But luckily, that guy had all the needed documents. So we keep the barn. We already have cows, pigs, chickens, sheep, and goats there, and all the refugees from our center are working there. And we put fish into the ponds so it will grow and we will have fish. We planted 1 hectare of the potatoes, 1.5 of corn, and also we're growing like vegetables, like potatoes, cucumbers, and all the rest of people. So they already started like canning and, preparing for the hard winter, what we actually probably will have. So, and on the another foundations, the old foundation that was right there, it was made a decision because we are renting a space for them right now, a building. So it's really good to build a building for them that all of them, like orphans and refugees, can move in and live before the winter. So that's what we are working. This is a huge project right now, the biggest project we want to finish before the winter comes.
Thank you, Oksana. So this new farm we're calling Faith Farm. We were talking to Terry and just saying how it is by all of our faith that this is going to become a reality to save people. So Clark's going to talk a little bit more about the sustainability and what it looks like for us as we move forward as an organization.
So we really fell in love with the idea of moving in this direction of stability. It's in a location that there's no military target. It's in western Ukraine. It's fairly, it's only an hour and a half or so from Lviv, so it's accessible yet safe. And so it's really huge that we can be there. And through partnerships, we're taking a holistic approach and we're trying to help where we can. And so Zhenya is organizing a lot of different support groups where they're getting food from Germany, Spain. There's a lot of organizations helping in this endeavor because the endeavor is very large. But the aspect that we're focusing on is the farm because it's sustainable. It employs people. There's produce that is made that can be sold in excess of what they consume. We're building this building that is really a dorm-style refugee center where people who work on the farm can also be there. And very specifically, we are also providing housings for orphans. There's a group of 60 that are in transit arriving very shortly that will be with our refugee group, with their leader. It's not just random orphans, it's the entire orphanage that's coming. So we'd like to show you just a brief video. There's mention of a lot of different aspects because it is a holistic approach. But like I said, we're focused on how we can help with this farm endeavor. So now might be a good time to cue up our 2-minute video.
Were attacked and civilians suffered from the war crimes in the occupied territories. 15 million people left their homes. 7 millions were displaced in the country. Hi everyone, my name is Yevhen Moiseyev and I'm from Ukraine. we've developed a unique refugee care center to provide food and housing, healthcare, volunteer work and jobs. Together with friends and partners, we evacuated more than 2,000 refugees and 700 orphans. For those who hadn't place to go, we established the refugee center in the western Ukraine. It is located in 2 separate buildings in Moshin town and serves 200 people who suffered from war. They receive 3 meals a day, medical care and psychological support. Moreover, they learn new skills and receive jobs. For younger people, we provide IT learning, masterclasses, camp and IT academy. Teenagers create their own products and become successful in IT. We build housing and a farm for sustainable life of many refugees. We put fish into the lakes, and we have cows and 14 liters of milk every day. We have sheep and goats. We plant potatoes, tomatoes, cucumbers, cabbage and corn. We don't just sit, we bring back life. Besides, we provide food for 300 refugees in Street Town daily. They come from the destroyed city and need help. We serve the people who lost their homes in war, their family members, jobs, schools, who experienced trauma, who are desperate. They are orphans, women, children, and people with special needs. They need more than just food. They need to come back to normal life. And we know how to make that happen. We provide psychological help, medical care, housing, and work with them. We have a great team of volunteers, staff, and supporters. And we know how to make the difference. You're welcome to be the part of the story. Become our supporter, and let us make the difference together. On the 24th of February, Russia unfolded full-scale war against Ukraine.
But we do have a brochure if you want to take this home and just pray about it. Our faith farm, and with a picture of Zhenya and a little girl and just different information about the farm on here. You know, we really covet prayer, so just please continue to pray for our ministry and Ukraine and for Oksana as she heads back in a couple weeks. And, you know, just pray for the heightened, you know, the war, just for peace to come. And I don't know if Clark has anything else to say.
We're just trying to respond where the need is, be open to where we're called, and figure out how it is that we can help, because we love the Ukrainian people. We love that Ukraine actually runs deep here in this church. We've known Nick for some time. We're just thankful for the opportunity to just come and talk. So thank you, guys. And if there's particular questions that might be burning on your hearts or minds that you, like any of us, but perhaps Oksana can answer, just ask away.
$90,000. So yeah, I know it's a lofty goal, but again, I know God, He's got it. So
yeah, we're focused on this particular aspect just because of the sustainability of it. It's a sense of permanency, which we really think carries a lot of weight right now with such a difficult time of transition and uncertainty.
I also have a letter up here I mailed out to supporters that talks about other programs that we've been funding throughout the war. So it's just an informational one, if you'd like that as well.
And we're presently around 15% or so of towards our goal. That's important for people to know as well. Well,
Winter.
they're trying to make the structure dried in by winter. It's almost mid-October, and so we don't have a roof on it yet. So it's now.
Thank you guys so much. Is there any questions?
Well, thank you, Clark, Chris, Oksana. We want to mention that if you'd like to give today, you're welcome to write a check and leave that in a box in the back, and then we'll make sure we gather those funds and get them to this great organization. Also, I'm sure you can go online, and there's probably links, referenced here and you can donate online. So pray about that. These are it's always a blessing to see how God's working elsewhere, and in particular through this organization. So let me just take a moment and pray. Father, we are thankful for our brothers and sisters that see needs, Lord, that are listening to you, Father, and their hearts are to minister to the least of these. You know, those that are. I think of these older orphan children that haven't known the love of a mother and a father necessarily, but you, through the hands and feet of these good folks, they're a witness to that, to your love, Father. Lord, do bless their efforts to raise money. Stir our hearts towards that, Lord, and stir our hearts to pray often for these good folks as they really are doing some good work here, and keep them safe. Bless Oksana and her family, and her husband who's still in Ukraine, and actually I think I heard her say he's out on the front lines. So the Lord protect him, protect those that are fighting against the darkness. In your name we pray, Jesus. Amen. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for coming. Be sure and come down and get some of this these brochures.
Thanks, guys.